You can paint just like the master. Learn from his teachings of evil.
Welcome, Reaper Mini fans! Today we have Shub Niggurath. This is a huge miniature, absolutely beast. This is the goat herder, I think. I mean, it doesn't look much more like a goat, but it is supposed to be a goat transformed into a chaos beast. It's got tentacles and it's going to look absolutely gross when it's finished, in a good way. What I'm going to be going for today is some nice dark colours on the body, and all these tentacles, they'll all be in pinks. I'm going to mount this miniature onto a 160mm base boss base, but first of all what I'm going to do is, because this is the old bones plastic, I can't use a rattle can primer. So what I'm going to do is I am going to use my old airbrush, and I'm going to use some dark colours on the body, and I'm going to spray all these tentacles and highlight and blend them together with my airbrush to use pinks, and the darker pinks towards the bottom going into the body of the beast. So what I'll do is I will get that done, and I'll come back once I've added those primers and the base. Okay, so I got my old airbrush out, and I used some Monster More by MSP, and I used some Griffin Tan by MSP. Now these two paints, I added a little bit of paint thinner from Vallejo to my paint, and added that to my paint, my airbrush, and that passed perfectly well through, and I was able to spray paint very simply onto this miniature, and of course it's dried perfectly well. That is the beauty of having an airbrush, is you can airbrush all your minis and it takes up less time, and you can plow in and get your details going. Now what I've done is I have blended the browns and the pinks together so they all match in, and now I'll add a brown ink wash to the whole miniature, and that will blend it in even more and make it all work together. As you can see, there's lots of little eyes all over this miniature, so I want the bottom dark as possible so I can paint in those white areas for the eyes, and then they will glow later on when I paint the eyes in. What I'll do now is I will add that 160mm base boss base and get him stuck on. I will add all the ink wash, and I will come back and we can go on to the highlights, and we'll go from there. Okay, so I have now painted in all the eyes. And what I've done, I've used some solid white by MSP, and I've just gone over all the areas that I needed, also the teeth and all the little parts and the claws in white. Now with the white areas I will be going over with a light brown ink wash, and for the eyes, because I've given it that nice bright white background, I'm just going to go over with a yellow ink wash and then use a black for the pupil of each eye, and all the teeth, they will also be given a light brown ink wash. Now what I've done, I've added some sand to the base. This is the 160mm base boss base, and I will give that a coat of brown paint. I'll get that all dry brushed and added and make that look very nice, ready to go underneath the beastie. So what I'll do is I'll come back and show you what the eyes and that look like once they're all done. Now it's very simple, there's lots of eyes on there, but using that white and adding the yellow ink wash on top, that will work perfect. Okay, so the eyes are just about done now. As you can see, I've given them a black line through the yellow ink wash, and I've given a little bit of an orange ink wash around the tops of the eyes, just going around the edge of the eye. Then you've got the yellow on top, plus you've got that black, and because they're goat's eyes, I've given them a pupil on a horizontal line going across the eye. So all I need to do now with this miniature is give it the areas of the eyes that will have a gloss varnish, the mouth will have a gloss varnish, and I might go over the tentacles with a satin varnish. So what I'll do now is I'll come back and show you the finished miniature. So here is the finished miniature. Absolutely beautiful. This is a classic beast. Absolutely, it's evil. It's a nasty piece of work, and it will look fantastic on your tabletop. As you can see, all the eyes and the mouth and the tongue. I've added a gloss varnish, and that all works really well. I didn't put any varnish onto the tentacles in the end. I just went for an anti-shine because I tried it with a little bit of varnish, but because there's so many eyes and that already had gloss varnish on it, it counteracted the tentacles and it took away the shine from the eyes. So keeping everything else matte and just having gloss varnish on the eyes, the mouth and the tongue, that enhances those parts of the miniature. So keeping the rest matte actually works well for this mini. So there we are. This is the mini for this week. Absolutely fantastic. If you enjoy what I'm doing, then please hit that sub button. If you want to support the channel, then please become a patron. All patrons are added to the end credits of all my videos. So until next time.
Goodbye, my fellow ones. Sleep well. Dream of evil paintbrushes.